The typical parts or sequence of a 5-minute radio simulation starts with an opening billboard or OBB. So the broadcasters make usually an opening statement or a tagline for their program for radio simulation. And then it is followed by the introduction or greetings, where the anchors usually do the job of greeting or introducing something like greetings, good afternoon, Philippines. And after the introduction and greetings comes the headline presentation. So we usually have four news items. So we have it could either be local, national, international news, and then sports, and then we have the entertainment news. So this is where we present the headlines. Then after that would be the news item, the first half of the presentation of the news. It could be the local, national, or international news, depending on what has been given by the proctor or the TWG, inserted or indicated in the fact sheets given. Then after that, after the local or national or international news, comes the teaser or bumper. So can uh, the teaser gives the listeners an idea. All right. So after the sports and entertainment news reports comes the CPB or the closing billboard. So this is where you also include your closing statements before you end your 5-minute radio simulation. So again, our sequence or flow of a 5-minute radio simulation, we have the OBB, opening billboard, introduction, and then introduction or greetings, headline presentation, then the news item, the first half of your presentation, local, national, or international, then the teaser or bumper. This is where you insert your infomercial. Then the news item, the other half of the news items, you have the sports and the entertainment. Then lastly, your CBB or the closing billboard. So in reading, readers usually focus only on what they are reading. They are usually not doing something else at the same time. So readers focus only on what they are trying to read. But in listening, listeners are usually doing something else while listening to the radio. So their focus may be divided unless they are interested. So this is one of the crucial points when we do our radio broadcasting, because really have to deliver our message to the listeners, especially to the listeners, because aside from listening to the radio, they are also at the same time doing something else. So which means to say that can they can be that their focus might be divided and they might not be able to comprehend or understand what the news really is all about. Now, we have here for readers. Readers can go back to what was written before and reread it to make sense or to clarify. But for listening, listeners hear words and sounds once and once, and then they are gone. They only have one opportunity to understand and make sense of a story. So again, this is how important radio broadcasting is, and this is also how important um, broadcasters on the part of broadcasters on how they make the news articles, especially with the given limited time. They should be able to deliver the news and expect that the listeners are able to understand to able to are able to comprehend the news taken from the print or the newspaper. So writing for radio means writing the way people speak. So this means to say that when we write our script, we have to be conversational. It doesn't necessarily mean that conversational uh, is out of the formal language, but when we say conversational, you're actually putting yourself into the shoes of the people. It can be understood generally, meaning to say you do not deliver the news for yourself, but you deliver the news for your listeners. And so, number one thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that clarity is the goal. Not only that not only that there should be clarity in the delivery of the report, but at the same time, the way how you made as a broadcaster, how you made your news, the angling of your news. Second, say aloud what you've written to make sure it makes sense. So for broadcasters, especially that the ones listening right now are school paper advisors, are coaches, you have to tell your broadcasters that they have to read aloud their script, their news, so that they would be able to assess if their news makes really sense. Third is you have to imagine, the broadcasters have to imagine that someone is listening while they are writing and pretend you are talking to that listener. Because in that way, you're actually like talking conversationally. And that's one thing that you have to remember, that when you write your news, it has to be conversational. Then number four, you have to keep it simple by just using one idea per sentence and avoiding long words. As much as possible, simple sentences only wherein it only contains one thought or idea. Because sometimes when the sentence is compound or compound complex, it has two independent clauses, one dependent clauses. The tendency is the thought might not be understood immediately by the listeners. And that is why you have to make sure, you have to tell your broadcasters that when they make their news, it has to be in a simple sentence. It has subject, it has verb, it has subject and it has predicate. So I have here an example of a news, a general script that I used for in during the area schools press conference, division schools press conference, to the regional, going to the national schools press conference. So this is just a general script, and I just want you maybe to take a picture of this so that you'll be guided, because later on you'll be making your output. So maybe this could be your guide on how you will be making your general script. This is how a general script looks like, and this is what I used an example of a general script. All right, so I hope that you were able to take note of this. So let's go back to, this is the first page, and then this would be the last page. This is the last page because there are 6 pages. But the format, the structure, the phase, validity, the one that you see in the general script, especially in the first page, is exactly the same with the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth page. And this is the last page. So this is how it looks like. All right. So for the radio script, you have to make sure that broadcasters have to make it clear. When you say clear, of course, the thought should be there, the format should be followed. You have to make sure that the sentences are not fragmented. There are no run-on sentences. It follows the structure, sentence, verb, and then object, so that there would be a clarity of ideas. And then second would be simple. It should be simple. Do not be putting so much um, complexities in your script, as long as it looks nice, and as long as the content is more important. Of course, the content is more important, as long as it follows the conventional rules also of grammar, and and following also what radio script writing should be in should be when it comes to making the script, then it is already good. Then I mentioned earlier also about it has to be concrete. Then it has to be conversational. Again, it has to be used, or it should be used conversational language. Then make sure it is readable. And I think one of the guidelines in the radio script writing and broadcasting is that you have to make sure that the font size of your general script should be 12, and more specifically in your individual script, as you will notice, if you will be seeing examples of individual scripts later, that the letters are all the words are in all capital letters, because it has to be readable. Have to make sure that the readers or the broadcasters will be able to read the script or their own script. And then we have lastly, the radio script should be accurate. It should contain facts. And you also have to make sure that the spelling is correct. Now you have here the things to remember in radio script writing. So this is one of the things that I'd like to emphasize when it comes to script writing, that broadcasters have to write in the present tense. News radio broadcasts focus on what's happening now, not what happened 10 minutes ago. So writing in the present tense is standard practice in broadcasting. And then double space typewrite all the lines and sentences, then have a duplicate of each copy. Because during the contest, you're supposed to give copies to the judges, and at the same time, the proctor. Maybe there are three judges and then one proctor, so you have to give four copies. But aside from those four copies, have to make sure that you also have a copy for yourselves as members of radio broadcasting team. Then also have to make sure that the word should not be split at the end of the line or margin. Have always to make sure that the words are complete. Do not split any word. Then write a page number on each script. So as shown earlier, the script, general script, there are pages. There are page numbers for each paper, for each page. Then, do not use words which are hard to pronounce or tongue twister words. This is very important. Please make sure that the broadcasters avoid words which could lead to stuttering or mumbling, because it would definitely affect the way they deliver their news report. Then, do not text write. So this is also one of the most important things. Do not text write. Like the way we do texting, like we shorten words to make it easier for us to send messages to the receivers. So please make sure that you do not text right. Then avoid being wordy. In print media, one can say they were united in matrimony, but in radio broadcast, they simply say they were married. So you have to make sure that, again, please make your script, your news short, but make sure that it is concise, that all the details or important details considered in the news will be there, will be mentioned within just, even if it's only 20 to 30 seconds or 55 to 70 words. Then break down long sentences for easy readability. So again, I mentioned earlier that you have to avoid long sentences. You have to make sure that it is only a simple sentence as much as possible. So now we have here the NSPC 2024 RB guidelines. So as of now, we still don't have the guidelines for 2024-2025 NSPC. So what I'm going to review are the guidelines in the NSPC 2024. So the NSPC guidelines for radio script writing and broadcasting contest is divided into three. So first we have the general guidelines. So first here is that each region must form a team of 7 members for English and Filipino in elementary level and secondary level who are not competing in any of the individual writing categories. If before, years ago, we were allowed to compete in 2 or 3 or more contests, may it be individual or group. So it is strictly prohibited right now. You have to make sure again that uh, you are only joining one category, one field, or one contest, because you will not be allowed to join in any other group contest or individual contests. Second, participants must wear a white shirt with their valid ID or school ID or NSPC IDs for proper identification. I can remember last time during the DSPC in Abuyog, there was one there was one team from the elementary English who wore their complete uniform during the script writing. and that could be ground for disqualification. Please make sure, coaches, that your broadcasters are not wearing their school uniforms, because it is indicated in the guidelines that any form of identification, anything that would give the technical working group or the judges an idea as to the identity of the school, is ground for disqualification. So again, please make sure that the students, the broadcasters, have to wear white shirts. Then an orientation shall be conducted for all the contestants. So any representative from each group will draw lots to determine the order of the presentation. So the the broadcasters are usually also being oriented by the technical working group, and at the same time the proctor, with the flow of the contest and the guidelines as well. The awards for this category include the following. We have the individual awards, we have the best anchor, we have the best news presenter, best in technical application, best infomercial, and best script. Okay, so in my experience during the ASPC or the SPC, there is male anchor and female anchor. But in our experience during the when I attended the regional schools press conference in Calbayog City and the NSPC in Carcar City, Cebu, there was only one award for that, best anchor, regardless of the identity, whether it's a he or she, as long as it would be under the category of award best anchor. So pwede po siyang babae or lalaki. Then, number five, in determining the best radio production, the total points from the individual and group awards shall be considered. Contestants are not allowed to have mobile phones, reference materials, or any extra sheets of paper in the contest area. That is why, before the start of the script writing, you have to instruct as a coach your broadcasters. You have to collect their phones, because phones are not allowed during the script writing and at the same time the simulation. The proctors are the ones going to provide the fact sheets or any materials which will be used for the radio script writing. Then all teams must ensure that their laptop or device is compatible with the available device in the designated simulation area. And we also have that is why we are also giving time, especially for the technical directors, to test whether their laptops are also compatible with the sound system provided by the host school or the venue. Then all any violation of the stipulated guidelines will be grounds for disqualification of the team. The decision of the Board of Judges is final and irrevocable. Now we go to the script writing. So we all know that script writing comprises 25% of the overall radio production. So this is also one of the important criteria or aspects of radio broadcasting, the scripts. Number one, each team may use up to 4 official laptops that have been cleared of stored documents and printer in preparing and printing of the script. All laptops must be submitted to the contest committee for inspection for during the designated time, and each team must also bring their own extension cords and other equipment for rehearsal. Remember that you're only allowed to bring maximum of 4 laptops and then one printer, and then you have your own extension cords. Then the team will have 1 hour and 30 minutes to write a script for a 5 minute radio broadcast, which will include one infomercial and 4 news articles. So the infomercial may cover topics such as health, environment, politics, social issues, and other relevant subjects. It should not exceed 1 minute in length and must be in the same medium the group is competing in. The news articles may be based on press releases, raw data, or any other source provided by the examiner. But in our experience, in my experience as a coach, it usually what's given are fact sheets by the proctor, provided by the judges. An additional 30 minutes will be allotted for printing the output. After 2 hours, each team should submit 4 copies of the script. 3 copies will be submitted to the judges and 1 copy will be submitted to the examiner. The team may print extra copies for their own use. And then once the script writing has begun, the contestants will no longer be allowed to leave the contest rooms. For personal necessities, the proctor will accompany them to the restrooms. The script should not contain any information that could identify the contestants, their school, division, or region. However, it should include the names of the team members along with their respective roles. Say, for example, the anchor, the news presenter, and the others. The Board of Judges will provide the name of the radio station, program title, and the kilohertz frequency uniform to all groups. So this is one of the things which we adjusted before because we were used to during the competitions like in area or in division schools press conference, we're used to have our own program title, have our own kilohertz frequency, our radio station. You also have to orient your broadcasters that there is also a possibility that the judges are the ones to provide radio station program title and kilohertz frequency, the uniform radio station program title and kilohertz frequency. Then for the scripts should be encoded using Arial font size 12 with directorial instructions in capital letters. And usually those directorial instructions in capital letters are for the technical director or the spinner. Then the double spaced with normal margin, 1 inch on all sides, and printed in A4 sized bond paper. All right, so we are done with the script. So this time, the simulation part. So what are the guidelines for the simulation? First, a designated broadcast room will be identified in the contest venue for the presentation. So only the contestants, the judges, and the examiner or examiners are allowed inside. The organizers or host region must hire an independent sound system provider to ensure high quality audio output. The technical operator shall only set the sound system before the simulation. A jack or auxiliary cord or adapter will be provided for laptops and other sources of sound effects. So again, contestants and technical director are not allowed to change, adjust, and manipulate the main control board during their presentation, except only for the volume meter. So once the simulation is ongoing, you're not anymore allowed to control the main control board except for the volume meter. And that is why there is also an opportunity for broadcasters to have their technical check or technical sound checking. They are given 3 minutes for their technical sound checking. Then, in the event of power failure, the affected team will be allowed to broadcast again. The use of sound bites, pre-recorded voice is prohibited, meaning to say you are not allowed to be including sound bites and any other pre-recorded voice in your radio simulation. Not allowed anymore. But this is NSPC 2024 guidelines. So let's wait for the next set of guidelines to be disseminated by the central office. Next, at least 2 loudspeakers may be set up outside the broadcast room, of course, so that the listeners can have the opportunity to listen to the radio simulation. Then the host region shall provide the radio frequency where the broadcast simulation will be tuned in. A designated holding area shall be provided for each role. So during our time in RSPC and in NSPC, each member of the radio broadcasting team was assigned to a specific room, and they're only going to meet once it is their time for the radio simulation. So after the script writing, they are not anymore allowed to be together. Instead, all the anchors or the male anchors will be in one room, all the female anchors will be in another room, all the news presenters First presenter will be in another room. Same with the second news presenter, third and fourth news presenter, and the last would be technical directors. They also have their own specific room assigned. Again, they're only going to meet once it is their already time to simulate their 5 minute radio simulation. Each team is given 9 minutes. So the inclusion of 9 minutes are the following: 3 minutes for preparation. So they are given 3 minutes for the technical sound checking or preparation. Then 5 minutes for the actual broadcast and 1 minute for the exit. So the provided running time shall be applied. Then the host region shall provide a timer that can be seen by the contestants and the judges. An official timekeeper will be appointed. A yellow flaglet will be raised to signal that the team has 1 minute left for preparation. A green flaglet will then be raised to signal the team to start. And a yellow flaglet will be raised again to warn the team that they have only 1 minute remaining, followed by a red flaglet to indicate that their time is up. It is also important for broadcasters to be a keen observer, especially with the time, because might be they are not aware of the time, especially that the deduction of points right now is different compared to the 2023 NSPC guidelines. So the team who complied with the 5 minute production receives a perfect score of 5 points. In the event of overtime or undertime, the following scheme of deductions will be applied. So once the simulation has is overtime or undertime with 1 to 3 seconds, so they will have 1 point deduction. If their overtime or undertime is 4 to 20 seconds, the deduction is 2 points. If it's 21 to 40 seconds, there will be 3 point deduction. Then 41 to 60 seconds, there will be 4 points, which will be deducted to your overall score. And 61 seconds and above would be 5 points. So technically, you don't have any point if you exceed 61 seconds and above. So you have zero for that, for the overall. For the delivery, the undertime or overtime will be deducted from the final average score. Okay, so you are seeing right now on screen the score sheet for radio script writing and broadcasting. So please make sure that you go over these criteria here, especially when you try to consider your news presenters, your main anchor. What qualities should a male anchor, a female anchor, a news presenter should have? This could be um, this could be your guide for your um, team. So you have there for the anchor, it comprises, you have their voice quality, the voice recognition, the enunciation. The voice quality is important. You have 40%. Then the voice recognition, 30%. And the enunciation is 30%. For the news presenter, it has the voice quality, same with the male anchor and the female anchor, 40%, voice recognition, 30%, enunciation, 30%. For the infomercial, the content contains 45%, creativity, 30%, persuasion or impact, 25%. For the technical application, the juxtaposition contains 40%, fidelity, 30%, timing and precision, 30%. And the script content that has 40%, clarity of instructions, 40%, and neatness, 20%. And this is how a final score uh, would be would arrive for the part of the judges. So we have here the delivery has 25%, 15 for the anchor, and 10 for the news presenter. For the technical application, it has 25% overall. And then for the script, 25%. For the infomercial, 20% rather. And for the adherence to time allotment, 5%. The adherence to time allotment, this is if whether you have delivered the exact time, 5 minutes, or whether you have delivered under time or overtime. So this is where the judges will deduct scores if ever you have exceeded or you have less time for your 5 minute radio production.
Thank you so much for listening. God bless everyone. Thank you so much.